Okay, girls and boys, we're going to look at how to punctuate quotes in this instructional video. So, as we follow along, if you can please make notes on the note grabber that you have in your notebook. So, we're going to look at number one. Number one on how to punctuate quotes is you have to have quotation marks both before the quote and after the quote. They should be hugging the quote. And we also want to leave a space immediately before the quotation and after the closing quotation. So this should look a little bit like this. Okay, so we have a one space gap from the last word of the sentence before you quote. We then have our quotation mark, we have the quote, we have the end quotation mark, and then we leave another space before we continue writing. Number two, you need to have page numbers in parenthesis after the quote. This one is easy peasy. It looks like this. So we have our quotation with the quotation marks hugging the quotation, and then we leave a space, and then we have parenthesis, the page number, and then close parenthesis. Number three, ending punctuation. So this one's a little bit more complicated and people often get it wrong. So let's give it a try. So after the citation, so that's after the page number, right? After that bracket, parenthesis after the page number, we then have the end of the sentence punctuation, right? Unless there is a question or exclamation mark inside the quotation, right? So what this looks like is this. Okay, so we have a tough, aggressive lady, right? We then have our parenthesis and the page number cited, and we end that sentence with the period outside of the parenthesis. Okay, so that's how we end our sentence when there's a quotation. Unless there is a question mark inside of your quotation. So if the quotation is asking a question, was she a tough, aggressive lady? Then the quotation mark to end the punctuation mark to end the sentence goes inside the quotation. So we have the question mark here, right, inside the quotation, not, right, outside the parenthesis. Same rule for if there's an exclamation mark inside the quotation. The exclamation mark remains inside the quotation. You would not shift it to outside of the parenthesis for the citation. Okay, so question marks and exclamation marks always remain inside the quotation when they are part of the quoted text. Okay, we're going to look at number four. You must capitalize the first letter of a quote only if the original text is capitalized. So if the text you are quoting has a capital letter, you must also capitalize that capital letter. You would capitalize the first letter of a quote if you're beginning your sentence with a quote. This is just super rare. You would rarely do this, but if you were beginning your sentence with a quote, it would have a capital letter. Number five, ellipsis. So ellipsis or ellipses is a punctuation mark that looks like this. It is the dot, dot, dot. It's only ever 3 dots. It's never more, it's never less. So we use dot, dot, dot inside of parenthesis if we're skipping words in a quotation. Okay, so if we're skipping words in a quotation, we would use the dot, dot, dot inside parenthesis. Now, single quotation marks. marks. This is another tricky one for people. So these are only used to quote dialogue within your quotation. Let's say, for example, you are choosing a chunk and the chunk quotation begins here. Of course I will. And it ends, that's what this war is all about. So that is your chunk quotation. But within that chunk quotation, there are two pieces of dialogue, two pieces of spoken word from characters. So what we then do is we have our double quotation marks to indicate the beginning of the quotation, but we then use a single quotation mark when the characters are speaking. And you can see the old lady said, right, that is not the character speaking. So we have a single quotation mark when the character stops speaking, okay, and we put another single quotation mark when the character begins to speak again, and another single quotation mark when the character stops speaking. And then we end the quotation with a double quotation mark. Okay, guys, so those are your 6 rules for how to punctuate quotes. You can look over this again when you are making quotations yourself. Good luck.